Greetings, metalheads. Welcome back to the Friday 13th YouTube channel. Today, we're going to be talking about the new album by Kamelot, which has just been released on Napalm Records. Now, Kamelot have come a long way since the early days of the first two albums, Eternity and A Dominion, which were released on Noise Records. Now, the early stages of Kamelot, the band was formed back in 1987 by a longtime guitarist Thomas Youngblood. The band would also consist of original drummer Richard Wagner on drums, original vocalist Bob Beck on vocals, but also have bassist Dirk van Tilburg, who was also in a band called Alias, who released an album called Metal into Infinity. If you're a fan of Racer X, check it out. And in 1988, the band would release their first song. It was called Breaking the Silence. This pretty much opened the doorways for Kamelot. Now, the band are hailed from Tampa back in the early days, and they'd released 12 albums. So the first album was called Eternity, released in 1995 on Noise Records. This was followed by the album Dominion in 1997, Siege Paralysis in 1998. These were all released on Noise Records. So when the band released Eternity, the lineup back then was Mark Vanderbolt on vocals, Thomas on guitar. We'd also have David Pricklow on keyboards. We'd have Glenn Berry on bass guitar, and also drummer Richard Wagner. So that was the first album, Eternity, a fantastic album. If you haven't got it, check it out. In 1998, the band released their third album. This is where the band had a lineup change. Introducing to the band was Roy Khan, who was also with the band Conception. Now, Roy quit the band later on in many years, quit the business altogether, but later, only many years later, he reformed Conception. That's still going strong today. The lineup for this album, Siege Paralysis, was Roy Khan on vocals. We'd also have Casey Gelerio on drums. Now, Casey, as we all know, now with Queensryche, is doing a fantastic job with those guys. In 2001, the band would release the next album, Karma. Now, this would be a four-piece band. David would leave the band, and the keyboards would be done by Mario. Now, Thomas and the boys have come a long, long way since the first album. Like the first two albums had that vibe of Crimson Glory, but now these days they're very symphonic and certainly have a lot of medieval vibe to their music, which really fits well for Kamelot. Now, in 2010, sadly, Roy Khan would depart from the band after the release of the album Poetry for the Poisoned. And the next album for the band would be Silverthorn, featuring Tommy Verick on vocals, who's still with the band now. Now, Tommy's also involved with a band called Seventh Wonder. And on this album, the lineup would be Sean Tebbitts on bass guitars, been with the band ever since. We'd have Casey Jerry on drums, and we'd have Oliver Pachelio on keyboards. Now, Oliver was also involved with the band Dora. Now, 2018 would see the band's last album, The Shadow Theory. This would also feature Firewind's drummer, Johan Nunes. Now, the band have just released The Awakening, a fantastic album. This features also a new drummer. His name is called Alex Landenberg, who also did the live DVD. Now, this new album would feature 13 songs. In total, there would be 11 actual songs and an intro and outro. The album was produced by Sasha Perth, who's been with the band for many years, fantastic producer. And the album was also mastered by Jacob Hansen, a fantastic Danish producer. So the two together have come up with a massively solid album. It's fantastic production. So the songs we have on this album, we have Overture, which is the intro. We'd have The Great Divine. We'd have Eventide, One More Flag in the Ground, Opus of the Night, Ghost Requiem, Midsummer's Eve, Blood Moon, Night Sky, The Looking Glass, New Babylon, Pillar, My Pantherion, and the outro Empatheria. And if you manage to get a copy of the Japanese version, you've got one bonus song, folks. You've got the song Call to the Void. Now, I really like the artwork for this new album. It's very dark, very gothic. It's very dark and evil looking. But I'm going to post the cover for you to check out. Let me know what you think of the artwork. And the band are actually touring right now in Europe with the band Mirith and Delalia. So if you get a chance to see them live, please do. Now, Kamelot have come a long, long way since the early days. Back in the early days, the music was more like Crimson Glory, Sabotage. Definitely had that Tampa vibe to it. And if you listen to the music these days, they've gone for a bombastic, symphonic vibe with a lot of medieval, folk, gothic, but it mixes really well with the power metal. Now, the opening first song is called The Great Divine. This kind of reminds me of Rhapsody, a little bit of Angra, and maybe a little bit of Epica, the band from Holland. Not to forget that the name Epica came from a Kamelot album. It's very melodic and very medieval and symphonic song. It's a really good opening song. Now, Tommy is a fantastic addition to the band. I mean, he's done a great job so far. and is a fantastic replacement to replace Roy Khan. As we all know, Roy was a brilliant singer in the band, and he's gone back to Conception. But Tommy is really doing a fantastic job. And he does have resemblances of Roy Khan in his vocals, but Tommy's got his own style as well. Now, the next song's called Evertard. I like this song more than the opening song, The Great Divine. It's a little bit more laid back, not so bombastic with the keyboards, but it's a really well put together song. And the next song is called One More Flag in the Ground. Now, I really like this song. It's a laid back song. It's not so much in your face with the keyboards. It's more like the early days of Kamelot. It's a really, really good song. It's dark, it's heavy. And I really like this style of what Kamelot's doing. I really don't like too much of the bombastic keyboard sounds that in your face. This is more laid back, but it's more traditional Kamelot. Still got groove. It's still heavy. Some brilliant playing. This is more my style of Kamelot. Now, the next song is called Opus of the Night, The Ghost Requiem. This is a really cool song. And a lot of this album also features Simone from Epica. She's doing a lot of vocals on this album, backing vocals. And Thomas's guitar playing is second to none. Thomas has come a long way since the early days. He's really matured into a fantastic professional musician. And the next song is called Midsummer's Eve. This is a fantastic ballad. So on this song, all you get is acoustic guitar, keyboard, and Thomas's vocals. Beautifully arranged, and it's a really good ballad. It's called Midsummer's Eve. Now, the next song's called Blood Moon. I really like this one because it takes me back to the song One More Flag in the Ground. Not as symphonic, in your face. It's still got the keyboards there, but it's a little bit more laid back with the keyboards, more guitar driven, fantastic vocals, great drumming all around. The next song's called Night Sky. I really like this one because it kind of reminds me of like the song One More Flag in the Ground, like I said before, or also Blood Moon. It's a little bit more laid back with the keyboards. The keyboards are there. It's a real guitar-driven song, fantastic song, and it has a vibe of Conception. Now, the next song's called Looking Glass. This is a pretty cool song. It's a little bit more laid back. It's still got a lot of keyboards in there. And the keyboard solo definitely reminds me of Dream Theater. It's a little bit more progressive, this song, but it's still got the classic Kamelot vibe. Another great song on this album's called Willow. This is like a semi-ballad. This also has drums in it and a bit more heavy metal guitar sounding. It's a really good song. It's a fantastic follow-up to the last song, Midsummer's Eve. So, Metalheads, if you're a fan of Kamelot, you're not going to go wrong with this. Kamelot have done some fantastic albums. They've never let the fans down. They're still going strong and still making fantastic music. So I'm going to give this album 4.5 out of 5. Kamelot have come a long way. Much respect to Tom and the boys. So check it out, Metalheads. You can't go wrong with this album. It's called The Wakening, released on Napalm Records. Thanks for watching, Metalheads. Be safe.